This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Randy Hetrick, CEO of OutFit. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Mike, nice to be with you.
Absolutely. So you are a former U.S. Navy SEAL Squadron commander. Thank you very much for your service to our great country. You've had a military career, MBA from Stanford, founded the TRX training system. For anyone listening that's unfamiliar with TRX, the suspension trainer is the leading global brand in physical training and the industry leader in functional fitness. So you built TRX from a bootstrap startup to a high growth consumer brand with 100 employees and $85 million in annual revenue as of 2020. That's unbelievable. So before we get into your brand OutFit, tell us the Randy Hetrick story.
Well, I'll give it to you, the quick version. I grew up in Southern California, was an athlete coming up, went to USC and rode crew, and about my junior year got fascinated on the back of the Reagan Revolution, right, with the idea of serving the country and really kind of the ultimate test for myself, right? Things that sound good to a 22-year-old dude. All of that led me down the path to the SEAL teams, and I ended up going into the teams right after I graduated undergrad. Spent the better part of 15 years in uniform, and including, as you mentioned, a couple tours at the now all too famous Special Missions Unit, and finally as a squadron commander. Then I ended up had a baby on the way, and was promoting out of the field, and figured I'd take a flyer and apply to one business school, and if I got in, it would make sense for me to go. So I swung for the fences, and to my everlasting astonishment, Mike, got in Stanford, which I still find to be one of the miracles of the world. And then the one thing that I had taken forward, I took a whole bunch of skills forward, but the one tangible thing I'd taken forward from my SEAL career was I had come up with this crazy idea for this harness that would use your body weight as the resistance against gravity. And so that the guys and I, when we would deploy abroad, had a tool that we could train with. And that turned out, right, to be a pretty good idea. And I ended up...
There's a lot of ideas, but that one, you actually took it and built it into a huge company, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, and it was incredibly hard to do in what I call the freestyle format, right? Now that I've become familiar, way down my career with franchising, I've really come to understand the benefits for folks that are coming into a business. Doing it freestyle, it's risky. Any startup is risky and hard. Sure. And a heavy lift. That's just the way it is, but they're also rewarding. But the way that I built TRX was kind of a, blank piece of paper, start writing. And that was hard, and it took a long time, but, we kept grinding, and over the, this year TRX turns 20, and I'm still the chairman of TRX. We built it into a pretty good business. And in 2020 was kind of our, the height of where I got it to before I rolled out as CEO. We did, as you mentioned, just over 85 million in revenue and about 21 million in EBITDA, which was pretty good for a garage band startup,
Yeah, not bad at all. It's an awesome story.
But I spun a concept out of TRX that I had been really interested in for a very long time, and that was, OutFit.
Yeah. So I want to get into OutFit in a moment. I just had a question for you. I find that franchising provides a lot of systems, from marketing manuals, operations manuals, just a way of doing business that kind of is a shortcut taking decades of experience and turning it into days of training for owners. And especially with military guys. I just interviewed a young military guy that invested in a pet waste management concept on my last episode. And how do you feel that your military experience has translated into success as a business owner, both with TRX and also becoming a franchisor with OutFit?
Well, I think a lot of veterans, and certainly veterans, were one of the two groups that really inspired me to start OutFit. The other being training, fit pros, trainers, coaches. But veterans come out of service with so many convertible skills. Oftentimes, the hardest part is in translating what they know into a civilian context. But they have, enormous reservoirs of integrity, accountability, leadership, things that are fundamental to building any business, much less an early stage startup. And I think that, I brought all of that with me. I didn't fully realize it, to the game of becoming an entrepreneur. And it served me very, very well. You're steeped in sort of accountability, and you also tend to have a grinder's mentality, because when you're in the military, the mission comes first. Right. And so, I try very hard to hire veterans into any venture that I'm ever involved in, because I think you start with such great raw material that it's very easy to build, specific expertise on top of that in whatever area of business is needed.
Yeah. And the data shows that 14% nationwide of franchise owners are veterans. And I'd love to see that grow, because they seem to thrive in this environment where they put that mentality like, hey, if I fail, I'm just going to keep pressing and pushing through. And that usually results in success for franchise owners. So thanks for sharing that with us, Randy.
Vets are also very comfortable taking SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures, and putting them into use. Whereas that's how they built their career. They've come up through the military that way. And so it's really kind of an ideal fit with franchises and veterans.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump to the new business. So 2020 was kind of your exit as CEO from TRX, and you've launched this kind of outdoor fitness brand called OutFit. So can you just kind of sum up what your vision is for OutFit and exactly what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. OutFit is an outdoor mobile fitness service. We operate out of highly tricked out, customized, kind of Amazon-sized vans, if you envision that.
Yeah, they're cool.
Each one carries enough equipment to train between sort of 70 and 100 people, depending on what the scenario is. And the business is all coordinated via a tech stack that really was the magic of the business. There have been mom and pop boot camps out there in parks for 100 years, but there's never been an operator that, that really kind of a sophisticated operator. And the metaphor that I use is sort of, if you look at what the independent coffee shop landscape, right, was around for a couple millennia, then along came a little company called Starbucks, and, process, business sophistication, technology, and under a common brand, and built, this amazingly valuable business. And that's sort of what our aim is at OutFit. We have a network of mobile gyms, if you will, that's all controlled and coordinated by the technology platform that we've built. And it's a very cool concept. You deliver amazing large outdoor group fitness classes in, beautiful public parks, beachfront parking lots, church parking lots, essentially a combination of public land and privately owned land. And so it's a kind of full service group fitness gym without the overhead of brick and mortar. That's it.
So obviously the traditional brick and mortar fitness space is very mature, and there's a lot of players in it. But, I realized by doing research to interview you that there's not a clear leader in the outdoor fitness space. So is that the goal, to kind of be a household name in outdoor fitness, similar to what you did with TRX? Is that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Except I think the opportunity with OutFit is bigger than TRX because of the nature of the business model to begin with, and then I've chosen to do this as a franchise structure so that we can democratize the ownership of the brand, and and I think that there's really an enormous opportunity for us to become the dominant player in the world of outdoor fitness.
Awesome. So we'll talk about the tech stack in a minute because I know that's kind of the backbone and what differentiates you guys from people trying to get into this space. But let's talk about that cool van. So you mentioned it's kind of like an Amazon van. It's probably tall so that people can kind of walk around in there and get everything set up. So I know home services are booming and vans are scarce. How do you source them and how do you upfit them so they have your branding and your look and feel and all the proper equipment? Do you handle that all with the franchise owners?
We do. We handle all of that, and the good news is they certainly were scarce on the back of the pandemic. At this point, it's becoming a bit the supply chain is kind of catching up to itself again, and so we're not seeing that as an obstacle as we were initially right after COVID. We have a couple of different relationships with so we use a group called well, everybody knows Enterprise Rent a Car.
Sure.
Everybody doesn't know is that Enterprise has a fleet management side of their business called EFM, Enterprise Fleet Management. We use them to procure and provide financing for the vans. We then have a relationship with a couple of outfitters. We send the van to the outfitter. They basically do all of the work. We order the equipment from TRX, and the van literally arrives ready to roll to its first class. All of that is taken care of by us as the franchisor and then delivered to our partners.
That's nice. Sounds pretty turnkey. So you mentioned before that, there's about 100 people can train in an outdoor environment. Obviously, it's kind of space by space, but that is a unique differentiator from, a gym that is kind of confined by its square footage. So that is a really interesting competitive edge that you guys enjoy over someone that's got that brick and mortar lease.
Yeah, there's sort of the way to think about the business is there's kind of three broad categories of revenue and services. One is large outdoor group fitness, right? Kind of the mental image might be of an Orange Theory class or a Barry's boot camp or any of those, right? Kind of they tend to be in the range of 20, 25 people, anywhere in there from 15 to 30 is kind of the normal size there. Those are on a subscription model, a basic monthly membership model. Then obviously if you can train, 50 people, you can certainly train one. So we can also roll up to someone's doorstep or, any other location where they want us to be for private training, whether it's one-on-one or small group. And then the third category is really the most, I would say, unique to OutFit because you have a rolling gym. We call that custom services. That's really B2B relationships. So it's corporations, who want to offer classes to their staff as an amenity.
So Randy, tell us about the OutFit app, where a member can book, find a class, and then how the franchise owner can actually use that data to kind of build their membership and figure out where their kind of members are coming from and try to deliver a really great experience. So can you kind of speak to the technology that is proprietary to OutFit?
I can, yeah. As I was contemplating doing this business, the one question that I had was, why has no one done this, right? And as I got into it, it quickly became clear that without a very significant investment in technology, you really would not have a business that could ever scale beyond a single site. And so, and it was pretty inefficient because there's no efficient way to get members. So we built, our members call us the Uber of fitness, and it's really a fairly apt metaphor because if you think about the way that Uber's app works, ours works in a very similar way. It's kind of a three-sided app where you have a member face and a set of functions and information that face can do. You have a coach face that tells the coach about who's showing up for the class that day, and then you have the owner facing side of it, which gives all of the data about the business management, business intelligence, and it sort of sets on a multi-layered tech stack. And so the way to think of it is, the member grabs their phone, finds the classes, sets up a profile, registers and pays for their classes all through the app.
Yeah, that technology sounds pretty great. So let's talk about the programming. Do the franchise owners have to create their own workout sessions for their members, or has Outfit already figured that piece out?
Well, so that was one of the other things that really impacts a member's experience is the class programming. So at TRX, we've been doing this for the better part of 20 years, and that's an area that for all of the large group programming is done centrally by Outfit and pushed via the tech to the units. Where the individual operator and their coaches come in is on the personal training, because one-on-one, you really need to talk to the client, right, in order to understand what the client wants. So we, the franchisor, are responsible for the large group programming. And then the operator is responsible for building programs for the one-on-one personal training and for those bespoke custom opportunities, because again, they vary widely. Although we are building out a library of sport specific classes as well that will be available to our franchise partners.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because in the group environment, you want that all buttoned up, but then on the personal training side, the members are going to have specific needs, and you can kind of custom tailor a program based on their situation and their abilities, things like that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit. You touched on the venues, and I like the fact that you can obviously use private or public land for this model. You mentioned parks, open spaces, and some pretty creative places like breweries and schools. Tell us a little bit about some of the interesting places where the model works.
Yeah, what's really neat about this business, unlike brick and mortar, is that it's mobile, right? So that opens up a whole bunch of flexibility on a lot of different levels, including the not only where you deliver your large group, but the special places that you can go and do activation. So you mentioned breweries. We have a couple of different breweries in our corporate market in Fort Lauderdale that we're partnered with, and we roll up. We do a big promotional class, and then everybody goes in and has a beer, gets a bite together. Great way, to acquire members. And so we do those regularly. We roll the van down to the beach, and we participate with a group that we love that does beach cleanups. Because I think that a big part of the biggest part of the effective member acquisition is really just it's what I call sort of the sweat equity approach to marketing. Rather than spending a lot to go try to buy members, the van is a rolling billboard. You get involved in the different activities in your community, and it's a great way to acquire members. We help our partners permit the spaces, because that's something that it's not hard to do, but it's hard to do your first time. Right. Once you understand how to do it, it's actually pretty easy. And one of the things that is a happy, byproduct of our philanthropy, because we wanted to give back. So we give free group memberships, family memberships to all municipal first responders, police, fire, EMT, and their families. And it turns out, the cities kind of like it when you take care of their first responders. So we have an unfair advantage in that respect with getting, we tend to have no problems getting spaces permitted. And then of course there's private land as well, like church. Church parking lots are a great place, because obviously they're very busy, but only a couple times a week. And the rest of the time they tend to have these great big spaces, and it's pretty easy to arrange a relationship with the church or with a business to use some of their land to run your classes.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And you mentioned before the word community. I can see this being a huge play for franchise owners, because you're already attracting police, fire, EMT, and schools. And, you become like the heartbeat of the community. That word will spread. And I can see how members would enjoy a lot of participation and membership growth when you're that kind of entrenched in the community. So that's great. So I had the opportunity to speak with your COO, Darren Jacobson, a few weeks ago. Super sharp guy, very knowledgeable about the fitness space. Tell us more about the team that you've built around you to kind of franchise the OutFit concept.
Yeah, well, it's an advantage when you spent 20 years in the industry, right, building another successful business. You got access to some pretty good folks, and so I've recently, Darren's moving over onto to franchise development.
Mm-hmm.
We have brought in a really experienced club operator, a fellow named Will Coker, who has run, clubs for Crunch and 24 and has been a club turnaround expert, with a whole bunch of different clients. So we're probably the grayest startup or early stage, venture that you could imagine because of my, relationships across the industry. And we're getting rolling, and we've got a lot of expertise and in delivering fitness services, and now we are rapidly becoming good at being a franchisor.
Yeah. I mean, you've touched on a lot of reasons why OutFit is a great opportunity. Why do you see it as a great franchise opportunity? I mean, I know for me, like the cost of entry, which we'll get into in a minute, is really attractive. The unique product offering, kind of a lot of white space for new owners to come in. Anything else you want to add to the mix about what makes OutFit kind of a great franchise investment?
Well, those are certainly two of them, right? Because we are definitely about the lowest price of entry that I know of in a fitness franchise.
Yep.
One of the other things, though, is what goes with that is also very low overhead, right? Low operating expenses. You don't have a 5 to 7 year lease that you're guaranteeing. But beyond that, the flexibility of that model, as I mentioned, gives an operator a lot of opportunity to say, all right, I happen to be in an area that has a bunch of businesses. All right, well, maybe the business will focus more on the custom services. Another may say, man, I'm surrounded by schools and club sports teams. All right, well, there's an opportunity. Or maybe still a third would say, I live in a high net worth area, and there's a lot of opportunity for personal training. So it gives flexibility to the operator to shape the business appropriately to his or her preferences and surroundings. And one of the other areas that I think is really cool with OutFit is that you're able to build incrementally, meaning you can start with a single unit, right? They start basically by the time you get about 400 members, you have capped out that platform, right? You're just at full capacity. Well, then you add a second, right? And then you add a third. So it offers the opportunity to grow incrementally rather than having to bet the farm on kind of a binary, do I do it or do I not, right? And so I think for all those reasons, plus the lifestyle, if you want to be outside in the sunshine, rolling around, delivering health and happiness, I can't think of a better platform from which to do that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of a good segue into territories for franchise owners because it's a little bit different than a traditional brick and mortar. Do you take into account like drive times to the central park hubs and open spaces? How does a franchise territory get carved out for a new owner?
Yeah, so the way to think about that is we do some demographic analysis, right? We end up wanting to sort of surround each unit with about 10,000 households, at least 2,500 of which have a particular set of characteristics that make them kind of a core member. We will center the territory around the park, right? The main park or main training ground, as we call it, where a franchisee wants to be.
So, Randy, what are you looking for in a new franchise owner? What's the ideal candidate for you to join OutFit?
Well, I think first of all, we want people who share the vision of like who really enjoy being outdoors and delivering health and fitness, right? I think having passion for what you're doing matters.
Yep.
Beyond that, there's a couple of different groups that are near and dear to my heart that I think really really make ideal franchisees. Those are veterans who come from a tradition of outdoor fitness, group fitness. That's what we do in the military. And also, any kind of training pro, from a trainer to a coach, to even a physical therapist, who understand the space. Those make very good, I think, partners. We want our partners to have to be sufficiently capitalized so that they have the funds to lean into the business. And we would love for somebody to start with a single unit. But the goal is to get, the average span between 3 and 6 units, I think is sort of the ideal, area franchise partner. And beyond that, it's as I mentioned, just somebody with a passion for health and fitness and entrepreneurship.
So let's talk a little bit about how much it costs to get in the deal. It's $93K to $200K. And my assumption is that's depending on if you're buying the van outright or if you're leasing it. Obviously, the equipment that goes inside the van, working capital, things like that, franchise fees to lock in your market. Anything else that goes into item 7 to kind of get the business going?
Well, you're exactly right. The lower end of the spectrum is if you finance the van, which I would certainly recommend, right? The upper end of the spectrum is if somebody just wanted to put the cash down and buy everything outright, which I would not generally recommend because it's not a smart use of capital. So one of the things we think is cool about the business is that you're literally in business for under $100,000. And that includes, the down payment on the van. That includes the customization. It includes the franchise fee on the territory. It also includes, all of the TRX equipment and the other ancillary equipment that's required to deliver the experience. And it includes a couple of months of startup capitalization. That basically is what goes into that nut.
Yeah,
and then there's discounts for, we offer a 25% discount for veterans, which, is coming from where I come from, seems like the right thing for us to do. And we also offer, multi-unit discounts as well.
Yeah, it's great to have a brand that's accessible for younger investors that may not, have $1 million net worth and can kind of come up with the liquidity to do a brick and mortar business. You kind of open up the inventory to a lot of people that could be great owners, and this could be the first thing that they invest in. Instead of buying a fancy car, they can buy themselves a business with an awesome van. So, are there any financial performance representations that you have in your item 19, or you can share with us about what an investor can expect out of the model?
But what we can share is the basic expense structure of a van is known, right? And we know that based on the model, it takes around 50 members plus or minus for the van to be cash flow positive, which is a pretty low bar. And then you can kind of do your modeling from there. But
yeah, because I would think in a brick and mortar, even in a boutique fitness environment, you're probably talking 150 to 200 members to achieve break even. I could be off there, but does that sound about right?
Well, generally that's a little low. I think it's, anywhere between 200 and 300 members are where most brick and mortars become profitable. And obviously there's exceptions, but the challenge with brick and mortar is that, number one, you got to fill it with what is generally a bunch of expensive gear. And number two, you got, the fixed overhead that comes with being a tenant.
Yeah, no, I mean, getting 50 members in this model sounds like something you can accomplish in a relatively short, runway, which is really exciting for people that are contemplating joining this OutFit model. So this has been great, Randy. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about OutFit. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Well, only that there's always benefits. It's a two-sided coin. If you have a very, very experienced franchise operator, you obviously get the benefit of that time, but you're relatively less important to them, right, in the grand scheme of things. And, sometimes it can be challenging to get the territory that you want. Earlier stage franchisor, you don't get as much experience, as a franchisor, but what you do get is our early franchisees are the most important, people on earth to us, and we're very much vested in their success. So I'm excited. I've certainly been in the fitness industry for a couple decades, as have my compatriots here at OutFit, and we'd love to talk to any of your folks that are interested in taking a look at a fresh new business delivering health and happiness in the great outdoors.
Very cool. Well, Randy, I appreciate you coming on the show. If anyone listening would like to connect with Randy to discuss OutFit or anyone on his team, contact me at franchiseqb.com or on Twitter at QBFranchiseQB. I'll get you connected with him. Thank you so much, Randy, for taking the time to get in the huddle and discuss OutFit with us today.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
You got it. Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QB Franchise QB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.